Well, hello, oddballs. It's your host, Bobby.
And your co-host, Lexi.
And this is Oddities on Elm Street. We're so excited to be back today with a new Listener Tales episode.
Woo.
For those who tuned in to our first episode back on Friday the 13th, thank you for taking a listen. And as you know, we are finishing off the rest of our amazing Listener Tales so that we can finally get caught up.
Yeah.
Since we've been away. So
we're not doing all of them though, right?
No, we have
we have a lot.
We have I want to say like 4 or 5 left.
Oh, okay.
And then so we're almost caught up. But then we also have all of these people that did submit their stories saying we have more stories and they need to send those in.
Right.
So then we'll probably be overwhelmed again and probably have to not overwhelmed, but we'll have plenty.
We'll have a nice supply.
Yeah. All right. So before we get started, I did want to say a huge thank you to everyone who submitted their story. And also, if you're listening right now and think, oh, I have a story you'd probably like to hear, please send it on over. And that is listenertales@gmail.com. And I also want to remind everyone that we have a new mini episode posted on our Patreon. The link for that will be in the description of this episode. And
come check it out.
Yes, please.
Which one is it?
It is the ghost tapes. It sounds very ominous, and I'm just going to leave it right there.
Yeah.
Just go check it out.
Since
it's
I got
spooky.
Let go, I've had time to research things.
It's very spooky.
And that one definitely caught my attention.
Yes. So go check that out. Also, we have partnered with Destination Unknown to host a giveaway. So be sure to go to my Instagram to learn how to enter.
What is your Instagram?
That will also be in the podcast description.
Excellent.
But my username is Bobby Curtis Lee.
Bobby Curtis.
It's easy to misspell though, so just click the link.
Just click the link.
They're giving away one game specifically for our patrons, and they are picking 4 different winners for, other games. And that will be on Instagram. Link in the description. Enter it. It's super fun. And a big thank you to Destination Unknown.
Thank you.
So let's jump in, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Hey girls, I'm a new patron. Dance party with all of you.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, my story is from when I was young. My bedroom led into a hallway, and from the hallway would go into the living room. From there, it would lead to the dining room. Growing up, this would happen around 6 a.m. I would always wake up early so I could get to the video games before anyone else or to the TV. Down the hall, I would see the lights flickering as if the TV was on, and we would always have this one really, really bright lamp on in the living room if one of us were up. So I would wake up and see it on and want to get up because my sisters were already awake. When I walked down the hall and around the corner into the living room, it was always pitch black despite seeing the light of the TV flicker. This happened on numerous occasions growing up. You could even hear the faint sound of a TV on. Years later, I would talk to my sisters about how I thought the house was haunted, and without me telling her the story, she said the same thing. I couldn't believe it. We also found out from my mom and dad that an old man died in the house. He was found dead with the TV on before we lived there. But the really creepy thing that happened to me was this. I would have a recurring dream when I was growing up. It took place in the backyard. There was a little boy who was dressed in pilgrim style. He would always try to play hide and seek with me, but the dream was always a bad dream because it was always dark, and I can remember exactly where he stood to this day. Well, one day my sister and I were going over the same thing about the creepy stuff in the house happening, and she started to explain a dream she had. That was a recurring dream growing up. She started saying she had seen a little boy, and I stopped her there. I said, let's go ahead and draw this little boy that we saw, if we can.
Oh, my God.
And then at the same time, we will flip it over and see if it's the same. When we were done, we flipped our drawings, and it was the same little boy, dressed in pilgrim-style hat, wearing suspenders and dirty clothes. I know where I grew up in Santa Clarita in the mountains, there was a huge flood that killed a whole bunch of people. And on top of that, it was all built on an Indian burial ground. There was a dam that broke and flushed out all the people living in my small town. We still can't explain why that little boy was always in our dreams and why we had such bad, ominous feelings about him, but I can still see him in my head to this day.
Ooh. Love the fact that you, like, stopped and, like, draw it.
Say no more.
Say no more.
I know. That's, I had a very similar experience with my brother-in-law.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
With the room that I grew up in and then he stayed in when I was a teenager. Hate that.
Oi.
They didn't include their name, but to this person, thank you so much for sending your story in.
Welcome. Patreon.
Welcome to Patreon. Okay, let's jump into the second one. I've only just started listening to your podcast, but I am obsessed with it and enjoy the longer intros.
Obsessed with you.
The story I'm going to tell you happened to my aunt, who was living with my family at the time. I still get creeped out every time I think about it. So at the time, my aunt was staying in our basement while she saved money to buy her own place. It was winter, and I live in the Midwest, so it gets pretty cold and miserable outside.
We get it.
Yeah, unfortunately. We have a Chesapeake Bay Retriever that is strictly an outside dog, but in the winter, we always bring him in.
That's good.
So at the time of the story, the dog stayed in the basement as well as my aunt. Every morning and night, she would quickly let him out and then get him back in so he stayed warm enough. However, one night my aunt let the dog out for a little bit, but when she called for him to come back inside, he was nowhere to be seen. I don't know if I like the story.
Yeah, I am.
Buddy, close your
ears.
She called for him for a while and then gave it a break and thought he would come back on his own if he was too cold. My aunt said she was reading in her bed and had accidentally fallen asleep. She said that she had this weird dream. She heard a little girl yell, "Hey!" In her dream, she turned around to see a little girl with brunette hair wearing a yellow sundress. The little girl then waves at my aunt and says, "I think your dog is outside." And then the little girl disappears. My aunt then wakes up suddenly, thinking how weird of a dream that was. But then she remembers that she never got the dog inside. It had been a while, and she knew that she had to go find him. The door out from our basement is a sliding glass door, so she slid open the curtains and peered outside to see if he was waiting for her. When my aunt started to look around, she spotted him underneath our patio table outside, shaking.
Oh,
poor guy. She quickly got the dog inside and warmed him up. She immediately thought about the dream that she had woken up to. She now says she's thankful for that little girl in her dream waking her up, because if she hadn't, our dog would have definitely frozen to death.
Oh my gosh, how horrible.
And then they signed it Quinn.
Very glad El Pupper is okay.
El Pupper. Yeah, oh my god, that would be the guilt I would feel if something like that had ever happened.
Unbearable.
Like, very thankful for that little girl.
Yeah, for real. Way to go, little girl.
Whoever you are, wherever you are. So our next story is from Paige. Paige says, "Hello, ladies. I found y'all through Bobby's TikTok when she first made a video about her house. That's been 4 years. Wow.
I'm glad you're here.
Crazy. I just recently started working from home, so decided to listen to podcasts while I do so. In the last week, I've binged all of your episodes from start to the current one, and I love it.
Yay.
Though it made me finally install our Ring camera after moving last month because the story spooked me a little too much sometimes.
Hey, that's
what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's our job. Okay, so back to the story before I get into my own spooky story. At the time of this story, it was probably September or October of 2022. I was 20 years old at the time and lived in a house with my stepsister, who was 23. In the house next door was my sister, who is 36, and her husband, 42, and their 3 kids, all school-aged. And then she says, my stepsister is not related to my half-sister in any way, but we all get along. It's a little confusing, but
Yeah.
it sounds like our families.
so hodgepodge.
Yeah. I worked as an ER vet tech overnight, working 3/12s, Wednesday through Fridays.
Good for you.
My stepsister worked a day job Monday through Friday as a phlebotomist, and my sister worked from home next door, also Monday through Friday, and her husband worked at a school. My sister and I are very close, and we would just go to each other's houses when we needed something. I left our garage door unlocked, and she knew the garage code, and I had a key to her house. One Tuesday, my stepsister had left for work, so I was home alone, which has never really bothered me. I enjoyed my time alone, and it was during the day. However, I was always so exhausted flipping back and forth from being up all night for work and then being a day person, so I took naps every day. It was probably around 10 a.m., and I had gotten up early that day to take my nephews to school. I was laying in bed and decided to take a nap, so I put on a cartoon and fell asleep. At this time, the only person next door is my sister. This was an old house, probably 1950s, with original wood flooring, so you can't sneak around, and the door to the garage is also the original wood door, so it's not quiet either. While in the early stages of sleep, I heard the garage door open and heard footsteps walk through the kitchen and down the hall toward my room where my bedroom door was open. My bed kind of faces the door, but the door itself is like on a diagonal of the room. I just thought it was my sister, so it didn't really bother me. I then felt this presence stop at my door and stare. I could feel it and hear it walk into my room next to the side of my bed and hover over me, staring.
Hear it and feel it. Ew.
Ew. For some reason, I either didn't want to or couldn't open my eyes, yet the presence didn't feel threatening. After a few minutes, I felt and heard it walk out of my room and back out through the garage door. I never opened my eyes and just fell into a deeper sleep. While sleeping, I had a dream that I was driving on a road perpendicular to the one at the end of ours. In this dream, a driver sped around me, swerving into a light pole. First responders got there, and then all of a sudden, I woke up. When I woke up, I texted my boyfriend, who also had a garage code, but didn't live with us. I asked if he had gotten off work early. He works for short line railroads, so sometimes they send him home if there's no work. He didn't respond to me, so I checked his location, and nope, he's definitely still at work. So I texted my stepsister and asked if she had forgotten something at home and came back from work to grab it. She also said no, and that she had been working all morning. So finally, I texted my sister, since she's the last person that knows how to get in through the garage. She said no, and that she's been working from home all day. I told her what happened, and she was over at my house in seconds. We walked through the whole house and the garage and didn't see anyone. I had told her that this presence didn't feel threatening at all, and that's when she said, "Well, when you were little, you used to talk to nothing and told us it was great-grandma." Mind you, great-grandma died before I was born.
Oh.
I felt weird being there, so for the rest of the day, I hung out at her house. I told my stepsister what had happened, and when she got off from work, she also came over to my sister's. It's now early evening, but it's fall, so the sun has mostly set when all of a sudden a fire truck and ambulance raced down our road to the end of where the perpendicular road is. My stomach immediately dropped. We walked outside to see if there was anything that we could see, but we couldn't see much. We checked an app we had called Pulse Point, and it said car collision on Johnson Creek, the road at the end of ours. The same road I had just had a dream about a car crash earlier that day. I looked at my stepsister, and she had asked if I was okay, and my response was no. You don't understand. I had a dream about this today. That night we did our best to cleanse our house, and it still always fell off, and my boyfriend would always talk about how he felt like he was unwanted and was being watched. I never felt unwanted, but since that day and until we had moved out, I never truly felt alone in the house. And then she went, "Any hoodle." Thanks for taking time to read my story, and I hope to hear it on your future listener tales. Keep it spooky.
Oh my gosh.
That's like some premonition shit right there.
That is weird.
Crazy. Miller has dreams like that. He's very intuitive.
In tune.
It's creepy. Okay, so our fourth story. I don't see their name anywhere.
Okay, person.
Thank you, person. Hey, ladies, just wanted to say that I love your podcast. I actually recently became part of the spookiest crew on Patreon.
Oh my gosh, welcome.
Thank you so much. I enjoy all of the topics you guys discuss, from the true crime to the unexplained disappearances. However, I would have to say my favorite episodes are the listener tales. Oh, well, looky here.
Love it.
I enjoy a good scary story. Therefore, I figured I would share my own.
Yes.
Buckle up.
We are buckled.
Okay. This happened many years back, sometime during late 2013, early 2014. At the time, I was a freshman in college and was dating my now ex-boyfriend, who we'll call Trey. One weekend, I was staying at Trey's house like I did many weekends. I want to give you a little background. He still lived at home with his parents, and they were strict about me staying the night. We would be required to sleep in different rooms in the house since we weren't married. They were kind of religious like that. Anyways, one weekend while I was staying there, his older brother, who we'll call Michael, experienced something creepy. It still gives me the creeps to this day. One night, as I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep, I noticed my phone was vibrating. Trey's brother, Michael, was calling me. I thought this was odd because the room I was staying in was right next door to him. My boyfriend at the time was in his own room, which was downstairs. It seemed weird that he would try to call me. Can't he
Like
just...
you called your dad?
I know, that's what I was thinking of while I was reading this. Can't he just walk over here if he needs me?
No.
No, he's too afraid. He's paralyzed with fear. He could also just send me a text message. I was very tired at this point and decided to just not answer, let it ring, and go to bed. Hopefully he's not dying.
You can call someone else.
A few seconds later, I heard someone walk down the hall from where Michael's room was and stop right in front of my bedroom door, which was closed. I was getting a little weirded out. First he's calling, and now he's just standing outside of my door. I called out to him, but didn't get a response. I never heard the footsteps walk away, so I went and opened the door, but there was no one there. I tried to convince myself that it was just my tired imagination playing tricks on me, so I closed the door again and went back to bed. The next morning at breakfast, Michael seemed off and quiet. He wasn't his usual chatty self. Trey noticed and asked him what was up. Michael then asked us if we had anything odd or creepy happen to us the night before. We all kind of laughed and thought he was joking around. However, he said he wasn't playing, and he looked serious, almost like he had seen a ghost. He started to explain what was bothering him. And he said he experienced something creepy the night before while he was up late playing video games in his room after everyone else had gone to bed. Michael said that at one point while he was playing video games, he heard a knock on his bedroom door. He didn't open it, but just replied, "Yeah, what do you need?" He figured it was either my ex-boyfriend Trey, me, or one of his parents. He didn't hear a reply, so he asked again, "Hello, what is it?" He eventually leaned over in his chair to open the door. There wasn't anyone there. It's important to note he was sitting close enough to the door that he could open it from where he was sitting. But this time he got up and peeked his head into the hallway, but didn't see anyone. "Haha, very funny, Trey," he said, but got no response. This is where he started to feel a little uneasy, so he closed the door and went back to playing video games, trying to brush it off. About 15 minutes later, he heard another knock on the door. This time he didn't reply, but just immediately opened it from the chair he was sitting in. Again, there was no one there. He said he opened it right after the knock happened, so if someone was trying to prank him by running away afterwards, he would have seen him. Since he didn't see anyone, he started to get really freaked out. He shut the door and locked it. Then he started calling everyone in the house to see if maybe for some weird reason, one of us was knocking on his door and messing around with him. This is why I got a call from him, which I didn't answer. As he was explaining this to us, I was thinking about what had happened to me the night before. I asked Michael if he ever physically left his room to investigate the knocking. He said no, and that he had only peeked his head out from his room after the first knock. This sent chills down my spine. I know for a fact I had heard footsteps coming from his room down to my room that I was sleeping in. I didn't mention this to Michael, however, and when he asked if I had experienced anything the night before, I simply replied no. I didn't want to freak him out any more than he already was. Hearing that I had experienced something as well at the same time he had would make it more real, and he already looked terrified. I also want to mention that other things happened in this house over the few years my ex-boyfriend and his family lived there. This incident, though, was definitely the creepiest. I always felt like something was off about the house, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It was a beautiful house and didn't have the stereotypical haunted look about it. It wasn't very old either. It was built in the early to mid 2000s. However, I always hated being alone in the house, even during the day. There were so many times where I felt like someone was watching me. The feeling was sometimes so strong that I would think someone was standing behind me, like if I was sitting on the couch or at the stove cooking, and would start having a conversation only to turn around mid-sentence and realize that I'm alone in the room. Ooh, I don't know why, that just gives me the creeps. Ew.
That, I don't like that.
Another time while I was staying the night at my ex-boyfriend's, Trey, he looked out the window and saw a dark figure standing in the road staring at the house. It had no discernible features, just a black figure. Not even the streetlights were illuminating it. He turned to call us over to the window, but when he turned around a second later to look back at the figure, it was gone. Trey said he only looked away from the window for about a second. If it was a real person, he would have seen it running away. Seems to be a recurring theme here.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew there was a bad energy in the house, and what Trey's brother Michael and I experienced that night solidified it in my mind. I never told Michael what I had experienced, even to this day.
Well, Michael. Hello?
Michael, hello?
Are you here?
Are you listening?
You know who you are. Your house is fucked.
Trey and I broke up a few years after this incident, so I'm not in touch with his family anymore. You couldn't pay me money to stay in that house alone for even one night. Signed, Ellen.
Ellen.
Good Lord.
I'm glad that you made it out alive.
Thank God you don't have to live
yeah,
there.
right? Oof.
God. Oh, I hate that, though.
I really hate the conversations thing.
Yes.
Because that's like
you feel,
you really
you feel or like hear someone
like,
walk in.
Yeah. You're like, oh, hey, blah, 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 blah.
And you turn around and nobody's there.
Like,
you'd be like, am I losing my shit?
not even.
Am I going crazy?
Not even a Remy dog.
Not even. Yeah. What the hell?
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks, Ellen. And thanks for being a patron.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Oh.
Okay, so story number 5. I've been subscribed to your Patreon for a couple months now, and I've enjoyed every episode so far. Thank you for being a patron.
Thank you.
Side note before I start, I have a few family members that listen to this, so if my sisters hear this, no, you didn't. My story starts as a young 17-year-old, quite frankly, with a lot of mental health problems.
Hear, hear.
Home life was harsh, and I wasn't doing the best in all aspects of life. This story, in particular, begins on a Tuesday after school. I was given permission to hang out with my high school boyfriend and my best friend. We had hung out for a long time that day, and around 7:50, I got a call from my father. He was upset because I had been gone for so long, and he demanded I come home before 8. He called you at 7:50 to say you need to come home at 8? Rude. The biggest obstacle in the way was the fact that I was about 20 minutes from home and still had to drop off my friend. I relayed the message to my boyfriend, my friend, and eventually my boyfriend's mom. She agreed to take my friend home and rushed me out the door so I could at least try to make it home as soon as possible. When I left, I was saddened. After a few minutes, however, that sadness turned to anger, hatred, and overall loathing of my life. In a fit of what I could only assume was melodramatic rage, I said to myself, I'll make it home in 8 minutes or die trying. I almost did that night. Wow.
Yep.
I didn't realize how fast I was going because of my anger and frustration until I looked down at the speedometer. I was going 90 miles an hour on a road that was built for maybe 55. I tried to take a 45-mile-an-hour turn going 90, flew off the road, rolled my car, and hit a tree. I walked away with only a few scratches and bruises. That's not the most miraculous thing that happened. After a few days, my father had a towing company bring my car back to our place. Why he wanted it was beyond me. It was just as it was when the accident happened, and now in the sunlight, I could see everything, and it made my blood run cold for the first time that I really looked at it. The car was completely crushed. Every seat in the car was crumpled except for mine. My side was the only thing in the entire car completely intact. It looked as if a bubble formed around me at the moment of impact. Looking back at it now, I remember the door opening easily for me the night to get out after the accident, but now it was glued shut. It wouldn't budge. Not only that, there was a branch a couple inches in diameter through the windshield, inches from where my head was that night. I don't know who protected me that night, but it was one hell of a way to say I still have purpose in life. I'm now 21 and have a bright future ahead of me, thanks to whoever saved me that night. Wow, Cheyenne.
Holy.
That story just gives me the chills. That is insane. Like, what a...
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, that's speechless.
Like, going so fast.
I
Through
feel
that
like,
curve.
like if anything were going to give me hope in my life, it would be something like that. To be able to walk away from something that serious.
Like, that. How?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
well,
that
I'm
would...
so glad that you're okay and that it really seemed to kind of give you the oomph that you needed.
Yeah, that's just... That would be... I feel like that would just be so shocking to get the car back and see the condition of it.
Like, oh, wow. I
could have really been...
Right.
Like,
because,
seriously.
Right. I'm sure, like, the night of, your adrenaline is rushing so much.
Yeah.
And,
you don't even realize, like, the severity
right,
of it.
Right. And then all of a sudden, you see the damage that was done, and you're like...
To everything except you is crazy.
Right. That bubble.
That's insane. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
I'm so glad you're okay,
No
too.
kidding. Wow.
Boy.
All right, and our last story for today's episode. This one comes from Elena. I just want to say that I am obsessed with your guys' podcast. It has been my way to focus at work, and it makes my day so much better.
Oh.
I've been binge listening and caught up from episode 16 all the way to episode 54 within a month. After the 54th episode, I finally joined your Patreon. Well, thank you so much for that. Now let's get down to business.
Heck yeah.
I want to start by saying that me and a few of my family members have had experiences like the one I'm about to share. But this is only on my dad's side of the family, and I'm going to apologize I'm going to apologize now if this is long. It's not.
Yeah.
So in February of this year, my boyfriend and I decided we would make a trip from Wichita, Kansas down to Tulsa, Oklahoma for his 21st birthday. We decided to rent an Airbnb for 2 nights to have a nice weekend getaway from our apartment. When we got to our Airbnb, the host greeted us as we dropped off our suitcase and then went to get some dinner. We had a few drinks and then went back to relax for the rest of the night. The whole time I felt uneasy, but I didn't trust my gut and pushed the feeling aside as anxiety, since that is something that I deal with. But I felt a presence in the bedroom, in the same 2 corners, and it would move back and forth. After our first full day out in Tulsa, we came back to the Airbnb and decided we would snack and booze it up for the rest of the night. After a while, we both showered and then got ready for bed. While we were laying down, we started to hear a knocking noise. It goes once, twice, then a 3rd time. Not even 5 minutes later, the doors to the bedroom slammed shut. We lay still for a couple of seconds before my boyfriend got up and used his phone light to see if there was something else in the Airbnb with us. Nothing was moved, and there was no trace of someone else being in the room with us. My boyfriend laid back down with me as we tried to convince ourselves that it was just a draft from the house being old.
Oh my gosh.
The air conditioner kicked on. Yeah, no problem. After laying down again for about 5 minutes, it happened again. 1, 2, 3 knocks against the wall. We got the hell out of there and left around 10:30. While we were driving home, my boyfriend said, "I need to tell you something." And at first I thought he was going to tell me that he was the reason why the doors slammed due to some joke that he would pull. So when I asked him what it was he wanted to tell me, he says, "I don't know what or who, but I felt a presence behind the bedroom door since the moment we laid down."
Ooh.
When I tell you my jaw dropped, I'm not kidding, because he doesn't even believe in the paranormal. And I had felt the exact same thing that night and the night before. Something inside of me tells me this was a paranormal experience and not the Airbnb host messing with us. No, it wasn't.
1 star.
Poor guy. He's just trying to make some money. But something else happened too. About 2 weeks after our trip, my boyfriend wasn't home, so I was alone in our apartment. While I was in the restroom with the door open, I heard my boyfriend yell, "Babe," right behind me. I know it wasn't a neighbor and it wasn't a show since I paused my movie and it wasn't playing anymore. I have felt these presences my whole life, and I felt them in my apartment. I'm hoping we didn't bring someone or something back because this isn't the first time hearing voices like this in my life. Well, ladies, I hope you enjoyed the story, and if you'd like to hear some more, yes, please. I've had experiences with the Hat Man as well, or some of my family's paranormal experiences. Please let me know. Thank you for reading this, and I hope to hear it on the podcast. Well, here it is.
Wow. That is spooky.
That reminds me of, like, Barbarian. Did you ever watch that?
No, I have not.
What? Man, we need to have a movie night.
We should we tell people about our little experience we had at leaving in the middle of the night? Because it was so spooky.
I was like, experience here? What? You experienced something and didn't tell me? No. You're talking about camping?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. So we decided to go couple camping with the newlyweds, and we were staying. The campground was perfect and beautiful.
It was
so
great.
Right on the water. It was amazing.
Really close to the what is it called? The
Mackinac Bridge.
The Dark Sky Park.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
stars were
crazy the whole time we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon too looked like the sun setting. It was crazy. Anyways, It was beautiful and we had so much fun. And then our last night there, we made a bonfire on the beach. And we're just sitting around chatting. And Lexi had her 2 dogs. And one of the dogs is just like very like chill, wants to kind of do his own thing. Like wanted to go back to the tent.
He was acting very weird.
He was. We were around the fire and he was like whining a lot.
And like kept on looking out like
back at our campsite.
And like, yeah.
Because it's a short walk.
Yeah. In the surrounding woods.
Yeah.
And just was like not.
Just
didn't like plop down and roll around in the sand.
He had some anxiety.
Right.
And we thought like, okay, he just wants to go.
He's tired.
Take a snooze in the tent. Because that's what he did the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a short little walk over this boardwalk back to our tent from the beach. And so the guys take your dog, Remy, across the boardwalk.
And they were to get more wood.
We're going to get more wood for this fire that we had. And I don't even remember like how it happened, but they came back.
Without any wood.
Without any wood. With the dog. They didn't leave the dog in the tent.
Right.
And they said that they saw something in the woods. They had like flashed their flashlight and they could see the eyes on this thing. And they were like, it was not small. And we were assuming it was a bear. And
they were like, Trevor said that he tried to like stomp on the dock or whatever to like scare it away. And it just was like.
Just staring at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here in Michigan, we have black bears. But supposedly, they're like super afraid of dogs. And they're just really skittish. Like, they're not trying to mess with you. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to get in your trash and stuff. They're like they're like big raccoons, you know?
Right.
So they're walking across the boardwalk and they see this. And Trevor's like stomping his feet, trying to make a lot of noise. And meanwhile, like, they have the dog with them.
Yeah, he's a big, like, lab pit mix.
Yeah. And the bear's just staring.
Like.
Staring at them.
Yeah. Like all I see is just. Because it's dark. Right.
This is like 2:30 in the morning.
And we're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they just say that they see these big, like, white glowing eyes, like, and very close by.
Yeah. And that they were like, it wasn't a raccoon. Like, the eyes were too far apart. Like, this thing had a huge
like, it was
head, whatever it was.
Giant.
Yeah. And I mean, earlier in the night, too, you guys had to throw away some of the food at the campsite because I, like, left cookies or donuts out for everyone to eat.
Yeah, your Chips Ahoy.
Oh, yeah. I was not happy about that.
No, I know.
I was looking forward to
sorry.
Something had gotten into them, though. And then the other thing, too, was So, like, once they see this bear, we're like, okay, let's pack our shit and get out of here. Like, obviously, this thing is not scared of us, and we're scared of it, so we're gonna get the fuck out.
Well, and the one thing, because at first I was like, meh. But then Miller said, like, it's obviously hunting. And that one was like, oh.
Yeah, well, I don't want him to hunt the dogs, so
I know.
let's get out of here.
I know.
But yeah, we, like, very quickly packed everything into Trevor's truck, and we were just gonna, like, find a place to stay for the night. And
But not everything. We just, like,
just
went
the
back
essentials.
and, right.
Like, cleaned up, like, what we would need to stay somewhere else. Left the tents and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But, because this is, like, 2:30 in the morning. But we load the dogs up in the truck first, of course, because we're worried about them. And so Trevor, like, leaves the lights on so that we can see what we're doing. And then we all get in the truck to leave, and the truck won't start. And I'm like, this is the start of a horror movie.
I'm like, oh my God.
First, we're going to get attacked by a bear. And then as we're trying to get away, the fucking truck is dead. Like, what? And so
at 2:30 in the morning.
At 2:30 in the morning in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say there's literally one street that runs through this town. And I don't know how, but we got really lucky. We could hear people talking, and we're like, okay, there's some people at another campsite. We're going to go. We had my car, so we could have gotten out if we really needed to, but it just wasn't enough space for all of us and two dogs and all of our luggage that we're trying to take with us. So, and we also just didn't want to, like, abandon Trevor's truck there. So Miller and I were like, okay, we're going to jump in our car, and we're going to just, like, drive to this campsite that we think we hear these people at. And so we drive to this little cabin, and the lights are on, but nobody's answering the door. And I'm like, I wouldn't either. I mean, right. I understand. We're driving around the campsite. We don't see anybody out. And then we drive down the one street in this tiny little town, and there are 3 Polish men standing outside having cigarettes, just, like, chatting it up. And the guy didn't understand what I was asking for at first, but he had some jumper cables, and he was the hero of our story. I'm so happy we came across him. So we got the jumper cables from him. We jumped to Trevor's truck, and we got the fuck out of there. And we went to a hotel.
Also, we don't have any service.
Oh, there's no cell service whatsoever.
So
none at all.
So Trevor and I are, like,
we had to
in the
drive
truck with the dogs and
by yourselves with a bear lurking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Bob,
I didn't even think of that.
No, and I'm just like, okay, Bobby and Miller,
where are you?
Please try to go find something.
I can't call you. Please come back. No, yeah, I didn't even think of how terrifying that must have been.
And it's all dark.
But honestly, it's probably better that than, because we were going to send the guys out.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Honestly, if it were just me and you with the dogs, I would have been, oh my God, I would have had a meltdown. Just a little bit. But yeah, thank God for those Polish dudes.
Came through.
You, they really pulled through for us and made it
trucks,
out alive, and with a pretty interesting story to share.
Yeah. So
it was fun though.
They jumped right.
I had so
got
much
the car.
fun.
I know. The truck got running, and we drove out.
We had to drive like 20 minutes away just to get cell service to look up a hotel.
Because I made Trevor drive me 20 minutes out.
So that you could give me directions to the campsite.
Yeah, and so I could do my Duolingo.
Oh, of course. Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. But yeah, so we did that, and then we had to find a hotel, but it had to be a hotel that accepted dogs.
So that was another challenge.
Right. But not any. And then we got there, and there were literally two rooms left. And
I'm telling you, like, that situation, it could have been so much worse had we not found jumper cables. I feel like we would have been like, okay, let's unpack all of our stuff and just deal with it. Or sleep in our cars. I don't know at that point. But we got really lucky.
We did. We did.
It was a good time. So yeah, that's our little camping story.
And then the following week, I was with Bob at a flea market, and I spotted some jumper cables.
$5.
$5.
You're like, yeah.
I took him home. Put him in my husband's truck.
Too bad we didn't see those sooner. See 'em.
Oh, so funny.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We hope you have a lovely week. Thank you to everyone who submitted their listener tales. And if you have a story to share with us, send it in to listenertales@gmail.com.
Please.
Otherwise, we hope you have a lovely week. We will see you next time. And always keep it spooky. I said that wrong? Oh, fuck. I've only been doing this for a day.
Yep.
For 2 hours.
I know.
Anyways, please remember to
You
always keep it spooky.
Bye.
Bye.